The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation promotes, preserves, and perpetuates music, culture, and heritage through programs, cultural, educational, and economic activities year-round. Learn more at jazzandheritage.org. The American Italian Cultural Center and Museum on South Peters in New Orleans offers event venue space, Italian language classes, dual citizenship and translation services, seminars, genealogy, and trips to Italy. Ciao! AmericanItalianCulturalCenter.com. This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.
Peggy Laborde, and welcome to Steppin Out with updates from the local restaurant, arts, and entertainment scenes. What a show. Joining me, Poppy Tooker, host of Louisiana Eats on WWNO Radio. Hey, hello. Longtime New Orleans broadcaster, producer, Warren Bell, with a brand new documentary. It's so great to see you, and of course, for many years on Informed Sources. It's great to have you.
So good to see you, Peg.
Yeah, absolutely. Alan Smason, editor of the Crescent City Jewish News and theatercriticism.com. Hello.
Hello.
And this guy, Errol Laborde, Mardi Gras historian and producer, panelist for Informed Sources on WYES, with a look back at this year's Carnival. Hey, Big E.
Hi.
Hello. And Frank Maselli, chairman of the American Italian Cultural Center, with big news about a big event happening. Welcome, Frank. Good to see
Ciao.
you. Ciao, baby. Ciao. Poppy, news from Commanders, huh?
Something big on Washington Avenue. It's actually petite, Le Petit Bleu. And this is a creperie, a cafe, and a marché. So it's right there, next door to Commander's Palace. They're serving breakfast, lunch, and they extend right into cocktail time. There's a gift shop there too, which is just great gifts to take to relatives out of town. The food, so the creperie, it's a sweet and savory crepe offering. I had the Cajun crepe, which has boudin and arugula and chicken liver mousse, cracklins and herbs all inside. There's a case where you can grab and go, and in the grab and go, there's all sorts of things like deviled eggs and pimento cheese, but there is that fabulous crepe. And then they also do great sandwiches. That one is called the Crioletta, and it's got Cajun tasso, andouille, and pepper jack and provolone cheese with a Trinity Melliton relish. I mean, this is Commander's Palace food. They also have breakfast crepes like lemon curd and blueberry. There's a cinnamon streusel coffee cake. It's incredibly yummy. And you can also pick things up out of the freezer case to go, like veal stock and lacquered quails and their great big old veal chop. They're open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. and right there next door to Commander's. I'm very excited about that. It was delicious. And I'm really excited over in Mid-City about the opening of Smoke and Honey on Bienville Street, where Piece of Meat was. These people are serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner to come. I want to point out that they partnered up with Tom Oliver's Coffee Science. It's a new outpost of coffee science. Remember that Venetian cream from Caldi's? Well, you can get it right there at Smoke and Honey. The owner, an adorable woman named Vasilika, she is making breakfast gyros that will have eggs and grilled halloumi cheese with bacon, tzatziki, and a few fries, crispy, yummy fries stuffed in. There are also bagels from New York. The interior has been beautifully redone. There's Vasilika. There's tile work on the walls. There's a gorgeous muffalata. She bills it as a Greek and Jewish soul food restaurant. I'm neither, but she's got my soul with that matzo ball soup. It's delicious. Her barikis that are spinach and feta hand pies, fabulous. The best Greek salad I have ever eaten. And It's not on the menu all the time, but catch the Lambo sandwich, which is leg of lamb, whipped feta, and garlic and onion jam on a John Gendusa poor boy loaf. Coming soon, she's going to have stuffed grape leaves. It's called Smoke and Honey because she's going to be smoking her own salmon. Souvlaki will be on the menu. Now, the rest of the day, she's got pork, chicken, or veggie gyros. She has her cocktail, her liquor license, so there's cocktails and Greek wines. There's beautiful outdoor seating with all the gorgeous weather coming. It's really a must-do. Go see my new friend Vasilika at Smoke and Honey.
Thank you so much, Poppy. And Warren, it is so good to have you with us and with a brand new documentary that's a very personal story, isn't it? Set it up. We have a little bit of a
Very
clip.
personal, but it's so unfair to have me follow a woman who's talking about so many delicious foods, because food is part of that story as well. But first of all, thank you for inviting me, Peggy. Several years ago, Mama called me when she was still here and said, you know, we've lost 2 of your brothers, and I'm the oldest. She said, Daddy and I have already figured out what we were going to do, and my dad was already gone by then. She said, but your grandmother left your father a tomb over there at St. Louis number 2, and we didn't want to go there because that neighborhood had some issues over the years, public housing, other things around it. But she said, why don't you at least take a look, because you haven't done a thing with your own final plans. And so I did. It's where my own grandmother, my dad's mother, was buried, but that had been 35 years earlier. We hadn't been back in a long, long time. I made the decision to invest in restoring the tomb, but also as I looked at the name above and started studying, my grandmother lost her dad and her mother very early, but it turns out her dad was a New Orleans jazz drummer. He was a wood and coal merchant because he was the son of a Frenchman who met a slave woman years earlier, and the union of those two resulted in the slave woman living a lot longer than the Frenchman, but he left everything to them. She maintained his business. He maintained that business while being a musician, being a shoemaker, being a plasterer, and apparently running the wood and coal business, and his clients included the houses of Storyville. None of these things we knew, Peggy, and I made the commitment, gee, I'd love to tell this story, but I didn't have a budget or any. I told our favorite person here at WYES, Dominic, we'd like to do this. And then I thought about my dear friend who's produced many of your documentaries.
Absolutely.
David M. Jones.
Yeah.
You know, we are
Incredible.
contemporaries in age. We got to know each other years ago at WGNO TV, but we wanted to tell this story of what I uncovered as a cautionary tale. We wanted to profile other people who've also found out things that were lost to their family memories, but with a connection right there at St. Louis number 2. And thirdly, we wanted to make sure New Orleans appreciates the amazing 2 centuries of history buried at St. Louis Cemetery number 2. Multicultural, African Americans as well as Caucasians, all right there who contributed to our city in so many ways.
Before we proceed, let's, though, take a look at a clip from Warren's brand new documentary.
And I'll explain.
Mark Roudenay located the tomb of his great-grandfather, the founder of the New Orleans Tribune newspaper, Dr. Louis Charles Roudenay, inside St. Louis Cemetery number 1, where his parents actually photographed him as a child before leaving New Orleans behind. He then located 2 more tombs of his ancestors inside St. Louis Cemetery number 2. Like others with ancestral tombs there, Roudenay worries that most New Orleanians don't even realize how many of this city's earliest black achievers and history makers of all backgrounds are buried at the historic site.
It is amazing, and of course, these are the air dates. You can also go to the YouTube channel as well, and all with WYES. But Warren, it is amazing how illustrious the residents, the occupants of those tombs are too.
And sadly, the site is I think, unfortunately neglected. It is the only Catholic cemetery in that condition, and I honestly had some trouble completing the piece when I started asking a few too many questions, I guess, about how come only this cemetery has been allowed to decline this way. And you can only accept the excuse that, well, it's up to the families to maintain it. But if a family is 200 years down the road, it may not be the same family anymore. And it's just so sad, especially when you see how much money is being made around the corner at St. Louis #1, which is pretty much the same scenario, lots of much even older tombs, and yet they found a way to sell tours there. While St. Louis #2, which is on the African American Heritage Trail, the National Register of Historic Places, there isn't even a sign identifying where it is, but we drive by every single day.
So it's only open, though, to the owners of the tombs.
Family members can always request a pass and be allowed in, but you cannot just walk up at any time just to say, I'd like to visit a tomb.
And Warren, we could spend the whole half hour on this because it's such a great story. Because in terms of resources, the Historic New Orleans Collection,
Oh, my goodness,
the Public
yes.
Library, Notarial Archives,
All
I mean,
of those
you go
things
through
are,
that journey.
we try to let people know, as I took my journey, the resources that were there to make it possible.
And the plasterer, tell us about that.
Well,
who renovated
there's
the
a
tomb?
society tomb being renovated out there right now because there were emergency conditions that it had to be shored up. And I'm walking out there with my camera, and there's one of my classmates from St. Aug, who is probably the best-known plasterer in the city these days, because he learned from all the old guys. But his name is Jeffrey Poray.
He's amazing.
30-something years, he's been the official plasterer for all churches in the Archdiocese, and he's there right now. And it was so good to see one of my classmates out there. Guess who used to be his plasterer, though? His favorite #1 worker was Tootie Montana.
Oh, my goodness.
So
Okay, we
you
just
see-
had Daryl on 2 weeks ago, his son.
So many circles, so many things that are separated.
Warren, congratulations. And
connected.
Julius Evans, let's give him a nod, too. But
oh, yeah.
what a team you had between yourself, David Jones, and Julius. Woo-hoo.
Well,
You know.
we knew we wanted to do it a certain way. I knew I could not do it with anyone but David.
Yeah.
And I knew David's fascination with Storyville.
Yes,
And
yes.
when I found out my great-grandfather had serviced Storyville, I use that term carefully, with coal and wood for the stoves and whatever else that they needed to keep things warm. It was just an inevitable connection. And we knew Julius because Julius started working here many years ago
absolutely.
also.
Well, it's just wonderful to have
It
you
was
with
meant
us.
to happen.
Yeah. So once
Thank you.
again, Buried History, Finding Our Past. It is the quickest half hour I've watched lately. I'm telling you, it's beautifully done. And on the WYES YouTube channel as well as the air dates we said. And Big E, we're past Ash Wednesday, but we're going to take one look back at the Carnival season, and I know you have plenty to talk about. First up, signage on floats.
For you complaining about Poppy being hard to follow, imagine me.
Come on, Errol. We've been this way before, bud.
I know, but you still got that anchorman voice. You know, follow that.
And he
Okay.
knows what's what.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's so much to talk about. What I do want to talk about is the parades, particularly the night parades, because there's a lot to say about them. But before I mention one little complaint I hear, even though some of the parades are really good, but from people watching, is that they can't see the titles of the floats. That's kind of an important thing to try to understand what
So
you're
it
trying
should
to say.
be lit, some kind of
There needs to be
illuminated.
some kind of lighting. I mean, traditionally they've been on the tractor that have lights. For some reason they're not doing it, or some are using multicolored paints and it doesn't stand out as much. But I myself, I mean, just say, well, I wonder what they're saying. And the more popular the parade, the worse it is, because the more popular the parade, the further back you are in the crowd,
Yeah.
and you have no idea. So I wish the captains and floaters on take this to heart next year. Figure out a way to make your title.
Your thoughts
better.
on satire and
Yeah,
parades?
well, I'll talk about two types of parades. The satirical parades and the parades, just the pretty parades. There's really two satirical parades. There's some that do a little bit of satire, but two that are all about satire. One is Le Creux d'Etat, which is the newest of the satirical parades. They do a great job with their sculpture and informing their parade. Their theme this year was "D'Etat rocks the boat." And keep in mind, these are
This is
satirical-
Gilligan's Isle take off here.
these are satirical parades, and so they're out to make fun of people. Now, politicians are easy to make fun of, and so they go out and so mayors and governors and presidents and Donald Trump's, that's Donald Trump right there to the left, walking the plank. That was the thing.
Oh, boy.
In reference to the things that he had. But one more I want to mention is the Knights of Chaos. The Knights of Chaos is really, in a sense, the oldest because they're the descendants of the old Momus Parade, which was a satirical parade. Their theme, keep in mind this is a satirical parade, okay, so there are no rules. Their theme was chaos has balls. Okay, and it was and it was a sports theme, and they talked about. Poor Derek Carr, between the satirical parades, he got hit more times than he did in the Saints game.
Okay, moving on to the beautiful parades.
And also Olivia Dunn, the gymnast, because of all the money she makes. All right, now, the pretty parades, and this is where we go. Knights of Babylon has really come a long way in the last years. It's an old parade. It started in 1931, I believe, 1939. For the longest time, it used like old-fashioned type floats, but they've really upgraded themselves. It's really a nice parade. In keeping with the tradition of the old parades, they have sort of esoteric themes. This is the poems of Omar Khayyam. This is not something everybody's going to understand, but I respect that, because that's what the old New Orleans parade did, that they tried to do. A beautiful parade, and on that same night, on the next night is the crew of Hermes, which this will be Friday night, and Hermes has always been a beautiful parade. It was the pioneer with doing lighting way back when with fluorescent lighting. It does all kinds of things with lighting, and it remains just a beautiful
And
parade.
Storyville was the theme, which was interesting.
Yes.
It's not technically a super crew, but it is a crew that is super in terms of what you know that it wants to do. I mean, if you want to model, I go after that. And they had a fun theme. The Storyville Chronicles, and I love that because it's New Orleans. There's just so much color to Storyville with jazz and all that, and so I thought they did a really good job. The crew of Proteus is always one of my favorites. This is like the second oldest printing organization, and they did a theme of Commedia dell'arte, which is the old Italian opera. And so it's not something that a lot of people are going to pick up on, but you learn from this. You know, you go home and you Wikipedia and you learn about this. But every float was beautiful. I've always been a big fan of the King's float in Proteus with the King sitting
And on to
the
Orpheus.
Okay, and then the crew of Orpheus. Okay, this night, the night before Mardi Gras, you have Proteus and Orpheus. That's probably that is the two most beautiful parades in Carnival: Proteus and Orpheus. Proteus is an old-style parade. Orpheus is a more modern parade, but it's a more modern parade done in the old style. And it does something, it does really way out themes, okay? This is something called Music of the Spheres.
Yes.
And you just try to figure it out, but just look at the floats. But they're really pretty floats.
And then on to Mardi Gras Day.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the Rex Parade, Rex works hard on this theme. That's all original floats, and it was a beautiful parade. There were some problems on day with parade delays, so I don't know if anybody was able to see, or as many people as should have, but they did the Whirl of Lafcadia Hearn. And it's a beautifully done parade and one to be.
And then we were out and about for a few hours before the Rex broadcast, ball broadcast, and we saw a very unique costume.
Yeah, this wasn't a parade. We thought this guy we would touch on. This year is the 40th anniversary of the World's Fair. Okay, so if you have to remember this. And this is the guy who really took it to heart. Remember Seymour the Fair, who was the World's Fair Pelican? He made his own Seymour the fair thing with his sign saying, Lordy, Lordy, Seymour is 40.
All right. Well, thank you.
If there was a million people in the quarter, 3/4 million, none of us understood what that was, but it was just really, really fun.
It was so clever. And just a quick P.S., the Royal Run, which is a real Rex Tuesday morning, a Mardi Gras morning tradition, thanks to Justin Winston, who captured the Bo Riley and toasting the King and Queen of Carnival, and even the King of Carnival, who happens to be an LSU fan, Mr. E. Smith, and Miss Montgomery, who was Queen, in his LSU Tiger outfit here, and at Audubon Park every year. And the Queen somehow always wins. Moving on to Frank Maselli. Frank, you've got big doings in a few weeks, a major fundraiser for your American Italian Cultural Center. Let's hear the details, kiddo.
Well, first of all, it's great to be here. Of course, I'm in virtual location at the American Italian Cultural Center, and I feel like I'm in the Dolomites. It's about 40 degrees in here. But so listen, our cultural center, I'm the chairman. For 38 years, we've had a fundraiser called the Louisiana American Italian Sports Hall of Fame Gala. Of course, that's at that gala we induct people into our Louisiana American Italian Sports Hall of Fame, which we now have about 130 inductees from all around Louisiana, from Shreveport all the way down New Orleans and everywhere.
And we're going to show you a graphic of all, look at this, all the inductees, including our own Marcia Cavanaugh on the Media Award, the Buddy Media Award.
This year our main honoree is Mackie Shilstone. Now he's not Italian, but he's a great guy. He's had a glamorous incredible 50-year career. I tell you, I've been doing this for years. He's got the best stories of anybody I've ever talked to over a 50-year period. And his wife is Italian, Sandy Sciacca.
Yeah.
So in addition, now we'll be inducting some great former athletes and sports figures likeCio Bracata from Shreveport, who was a former NFL scout and coached high school and all. Glenn Cicchini, who's like a legendary baseball coach from Lake Charles, had over 1,000 victories. He's got, I don't know how many state championships. And finally, we're inducting Paul Maneri, who everyone knows from LSU.
Absolutely.
He was our honoree several years back, but we're now inducting him. We're real excited.
Well, Frank,
Now,
I'm really excited
good.
because I know that proceeds from this not only support the Cultural Center, but also scholarships too.
Oh, sure. We'll be giving away 7 scholarships on the Friday night before the event. Of course, the event's next Saturday night at the New Orleans Hilton.
The 24th, yes,
And,
yes.
I don't know what else. I mean, we're also honoring, of course, Marcia, who I've known for many years.
Absolutely.
Barry Kern is going to receive the Civic Award. He's half Italian. A lot of people don't know. A famous Dr. Mark Matrana from Oxnard, who is a cancer specialist, real successful in research and everything. We're honoring a guy named Frankie Menino Mann.
I remember Frankie
And
Mann.
he was a legendary teacher
Band leader.
of music and a band leader. He's very well known. You know, he passed on several years back.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be real. We have a lot of fun at this event. We'll have some music, some singing. We'll have some great food at the Hilton. Always takes great care of us. And you know, it's just a great thing.
And
you know.
chow y'all, I love the fact that you've got chow y'all different items at the Cultural Center, so y'all can check that out.
That's our new motto,
That's
chow
great.
y'all.
I'm going to get a T-shirt. Once again, AmericanItalianCulturalCenter.com for all the details.
Yeah.
Frank, it's great to have you here. And now we're going to move over to Ellen.
Well, and I worked with Frankie Mann in one of the Carnival balls, the
Really?
Crew Vokianis. Yeah, he was a
Okay.
great band leader. Well, now we got a little bit of a moment. Now we got a breather from Carnival. But I want to bring everybody just a little bit back to Carnival in a way. I wanted to give a shout out to David Goss and Leo Photos. They are the New York creators of the musical San, about the life of the New Orleans Carnival costume designer San Nicholas. It's a 2-act musical that they staged in a concert performance back a couple of weeks ago. And I took this photo of the 2 composer lyricists, if you will, and that was at the exhibit that they did at the Presbyterium. I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but they really have this musical headed towards Broadway, probably off Broadway, but we wish them the best. It's especially really uplifting to know that it's a story, a rather improbable tale of an impoverished New Orleans youngster going on to be a king in his own right and becoming an award-winning designer. So while New Orleans' Mardi Gras may be over, I strongly urge those of you who love Carnival and its pageantry to go check out this exhibit at the Presbyterium. It's called To Be a Star, the Carnival Costume Designs of San Nicholas. And again, some of the amazing pieces that you'll see, look at this, were designed for the crews of Venus, Endymion, Noblades, Aquila, and Mocana, just to name a few. His work with metal, feathers, and materials was enough to set a standard for others to follow. And it's the costume here that I really love. This is when he was the king of Venus not too long ago. It was a costume he designed for himself. And the exhibit is really wonderful. It's being put on by the Louisiana State Museum at the Presbyterium. The cost of admission is only maybe $6 or $7, I think, depending on if you're a senior citizen, etc. They're open Tuesday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And there are additional pieces that will roll out as a video piece that's not yet up on Pete Fountain and his Half-Ass Marching Club, a costume that San designed for them during the 1979 police strike, not knowing we were going to have a strike then. To Be a Star, again, at Louisiana State Museum. Meanwhile, now I have to tell everybody that Mark Cartali has really gotten rave reviews for his production of Days of Wine and Roses on Broadway. But he is now, even though he's had those enthusiastic reviews on Broadway, he's now bringing back his wonderful Broadway Noka series. And again, this is getting its start up since the first time since 2020. He has not announced the entire season, but he has announced the first of his, if you will, guest stars. And some of you may remember Claiborne Elder. He was in The Gilded Age. You may also remember he was also in Cabaret recently with Patti LuPone and Katrina Lenk. But again, this is going to be a great series starting off. Unlike in the past, though, Seth Rudetsky was at the piano. This time out, Rodney Bush will be accompanying Claiborne, and it'll be more like a traditional cabaret performance. performance. Tickets are available at BroadwayNola.com. Mark Cartelli is always really bringing in some wonderful acts. And also, I have to let everybody know, just in time for Easter, the Jefferson Performing Arts Society is bringing their own huge undertaking with this huge cast and a live orchestra of Jesus Christ Superstar. There are going to be several out-of-town players. This is a guy, Michael Moore, who's from New Orleans. He went, actually, he's an international star now. He married the lady that you see on the right there, Nadine. She's now Nadine Moore, but she was living in Germany. They are going to be here as Jesus and, of course, Mary Magdalene. And then the center there, we all recognize Jake Wynn Wilson. Jake is going to be performing as Judas Iscariot. Again, I can't wait. Ken Beck is the director. He's staging it with biblical times rather than a modern look. That's going to be Jesus Christ Superstar at the JPAC.
Right.
And again, also, they're going to take it on the road, one show, on April the 5th at the Columbia Theater to Hammond, Louisiana. Check that out as well.
Okay, thank you. Time for picks. Poppy.
This weekend, don't miss the Tet Festival celebrating Year of the Dragon. That's out at Mary, Queen of Vietnam Church in the East. It's going to be great.
Okay, Alan.
Well, I want to let everyone know Matthew Kramer has worked with these guys in the past. These are the members of the Beatles tribute band Classical Mystery Tour. And they're going to be out on Saturday night and Sunday afternoon. It's a thing called Classical Mystery Tour, the Beatles music, with Matthew Kramer as the conductor. It should be great. Check it out. And I'll see you at the theater.
And my pick, a free screening and a discussion of Dr. Henry Louis Gates' new series on gospel music will take place Saturday at 11 a.m. here at WYES 916 DeVar. Sally Ann Roberts is going to lead the discussion. Awesome. Go to wyes.org/events to register for this free event. Don't miss this month's Piety Market at Hotel Peter and Paul on Sunday, noon to 5 p.m. Live music by the Glowworm Band and handmade clothing, arts, crafts, and food. And if you missed this year's broadcast of the Rex Ball and meeting of the courts of Rex and Comus, you can watch it in its entirety. You can check it out on YouTube. There it is on our WYES YouTube channel. It is so good to have you all with us, and thank you all very, very much. And thank you very much for watching. Good night.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation promotes, preserves, and perpetuates music, culture, and heritage through programs, cultural, educational, and economic activities year-round. Learn more at jazzandheritage.org. The American Italian Cultural Center and Museum on South Peters in New Orleans offers event venue space, Italian language classes, dual citizenship and translation services, seminars, genealogy, and trips to Italy. Ciao, AmericanItalianCulturalCenter.com. This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.